After Tim passed, people told me to have faith. God has a plan, they said. He is in control. Trust the process. And I nodded because what else do you do when someone hands you those words like they are supposed to be enough? But inside, quietly, in the place I didn't show anyone, I was not nodding. I was asking a question I was almost afraid to speak out loud. What kind of plan takes away the person I love most? I knew God. I had a relationship with Him long before Tim got sick. I prayed over that hospital bed. I had believed, and I still lost Him. So, what does faith even mean when the thing you prayed against still happened? What do you do with a God who was silenced in the moment you needed Him loudest? That is what this episode is about. Not a tidy answer, not a theological argument, just the truth of what faith actually looks like when grief strips everything else away. In those first weeks after Tim passed, there were nights when the silence in the house felt like an answer I didn't ask for. I would lie awake and the questions will come, not gently, not one at a time, all at once, but in the dark when there was nothing else to fill the space. Are you even there? Did you hear me when I prayed? Was any of it real? I am telling you this because I think there are people listening right now who have asked the same questions and felt ashamed of them, who have sat in church or read a scripture and felt like a fraud because the faith they were supposed to have felt very far away. You are not alone in your doubt. Doubt after loss is not the opposite of faith. It is what faith looks like when it is being tested at its deepest level. It is the sound of a heart that still cares enough to ask. The person who never doubt are not necessarily the ones with the strongest faith. Sometimes they are simply the one whose faith has never been asked to carry this much weight. Yours has, and it is still here, even in the asking. Before we go further, if this is finding you in a moment of doubt, if you have been carrying these questions alone and needed to hear that someone else has asked them too, I want you to know this podcast exists for exactly this moment. When Goodbye Comes Too Early is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Please hit follow or subscribe so these conversations can keep finding you. And if my book has been on your heart, you can find it on Amazon. The link is always in the description below. Now let's keep going because the part I am about to share is the part that changed everything for me. There was an evening, maybe 6 weeks after Tam passed. I was sitting in the chair by the window, the one I used to sit in when he was resting, just to be near him, just to watch him breathe. The sun was setting, gold coming through the blind in long, slow line across the floor. And the room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I wasn't praying. I had stopped praying the way I used to. Words felt too heavy, too formal for what I was carrying. I was just sitting, existing in the space where he used to be. And then something happened that I have thought about almost every day since. I felt warmed, not from the sun, not from the womb, from somewhere else I cannot name or explain. A warmth that wrapped around me the way arms do. And in it, not as a voice, not as a vision, but as a knowing, I felt him. And underneath that, something quieter still, something that felt like God saying, I was here the whole time. I never left this room. I am not asking you to believe what I experienced. I am just telling you what happened. And I am telling you because I know I am not the only one who has sat in a quiet room after losing someone and felt something shift. Something too gentle to be coincidence, too specific to be imagination, too present to be absence. That is what I mean when I said grace, not a miracle with trumpets, a warmth in a womb that should have felt empty. I want to talk about what faith actually looks like for me in those months, because I think we have been giving a very narrow picture of what faith is supposed to look like after loss. We are told it looks like peace, like surrender, like a woman who has somehow found serenity in the middle of the worst thing that has ever happened to her. That was not my fate. My fate looked like showing up to church and sitting in the back because I was not sure I believe a single word being sung. My fate looked like opening a Bible and closing it again because I could not find a verse that explained why my husband was gone. My fate looked like arguing with God in my car on the way to the grocery store, telling him I was angry, telling him this was not the life I had planned, telling him I needed him to show up because I was running out of the strength to keep looking. And here is what I learned. God is not afraid of your anger. He is not offended by your doubt. He is not waiting for you to get your faith together before he shows up. He meets you in the argument. He meets you in the car. He meets you in the chair by the window when you have stopped trying to find the right words. There were days I didn't pray because I didn't know what to say. But God didn't need my word. He saw my heart. He saw the woman trying to hold it all together while falling apart inside. He saw the grief I was too tired to name. He saw the faith I thought I had lost, and he held it for me until I could hold it again. Grace is not loud. I need you to hear that, especially if you have been waiting for a sign so obvious you cannot miss it. Grace after grief move quietly. It does not announce itself. It does not part the sky or send you a message you can screenshot. It is a phone call from a friend at the exact moment you are about to fall apart. It is a stranger in a parking lot who says something small and kind and had no idea how much you needed it. It is a sunrise that looks exactly like every other sunrise, except today, for reason you cannot explain, it cracks you open instead of just lighting the sky. It is the way the world keeps spinning even when you cannot. That is God saying, you are still mine. Even here, even in this, even when you cannot feel me, I am still working. Spiritual grief, the kind that shakes your faith alongside your heart, is one of the least talked about dimensions of losing a spouse. We talk about the practical grief, the emotional grief, the physical grief, but the grief that reaches into the place where your belief leaves and shakes it, that one is often carried alone. You do not have to carry it alone. Faith after loss is not about having all the answers. It never was. It is about holding on when you do not. It is about trusting that even the world break your heart, God still hold the pieces, even the one you cannot find, even the one you threw across the womb in anger. He hold those too. I learned that faith does not erase the pain, it gives it purpose. And grace is what carries you when you have nothing left to give. When the prayers stop coming, when the scriptures feels far away, when the only thing you can offer God is the fact that you are still here. Still here is enough. Still here is its own form of faith. If you have ever doubted, you are not alone. If you have ever been angry at God, you are not alone. If you have ever sat in a church service and felt like a fraud because your faith felt broken, you are not alone. Doubt is not the end of faith. It is often where faith gets deepened. It is the place where beliefs stop being something inherited or assumed and becomes something you have actually wrestled with and chosen to keep. The widows and grieving spouse who have walked this path before us, they doubted too. They argue with God too. They sat in silent rooms and wonder if any of it was real. And most of them, in time, came back, not to the faith they had before, to something harder won, something that has been tested and was still standing. That is the faith I have now, not the one I had before. Tim got sick. This one has scars. This one has been through the dark and came out the other side still believing. And I think that kind of faith, the kind that has actually cost you something, is the most real kind there is. Heavenly Father, thank you for staying close, even when I couldn't feel you, for whispering through the quiet when I had stopped listening for anything at all. for showing up in the chair by the window, in the phone call I didn't expect, in the sunrise I almost didn't look up to see. Thank you for not needing my word when I had none, for seeing my heart when I could not speak it, for holding the pieces of my faith while I was too tired to hold them myself. And thank you for the grace that does not announce itself, the kind that moves quietly through ordinary moments, and reminding us that love never truly disappears. It just learns a new way to find us. Even here, you are not alone. Next time, we'll talk about the people who stayed, the friends, the community, the unexpected love that holds you up when you cannot hold yourself. If today episodes met you in a moment of doubt, please share it with someone who might need it. A review means more than you know. It helps this podcast reach the people who are searching for it right now. Find my book, When Goodbye Comes Too Early, on Amazon. The link is always in the description. Until then, this is LTP Hope, reminding you that when goodbye comes too early, love is what helps us begin again. Until then, take care.